So Javorcik is the Chief Economist at the EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, joins me from Washington. First of all, the EBRD itself, I mean, we see the result. We see in your results the non-performing loans and the loss provisions and the writing down of assets. Now, you're obviously a multilateral lender. You're one aspect of this, but extrapolate this across other economies and you start to see the wider economic effect.
Well, this year was a difficult year for everybody, and indeed, my institution took some losses. However, 2 years ago, we had a record profit. Nevertheless, we are very glad that we can support Ukraine through this difficult time, but by helping the country keep the lights on, keep the trains running, and keeping the heat on.
If we look at the calls for more funding, both from Zelensky and others, how realistic is it? I mean, yeah, okay, of course, 14 billion is the rounding error of the collective EU-US budget. It's easily done in multi-trillion-dollar economies, and even 400 billion. But is there the political will to spend that money?
Well, I think we need to distinguish between short-run funding that is needed to keep the country running, to make payments to pensioners, make payments to soldiers. This is the lower amount, about 4 billion a month. And then the cost of reconstruction, which has been estimated to be $411 billion. There is no point, talking about reconstruction if we are not going to help Ukraine through the war effort, and Ukraine would become effectively a failed state.
So, I mean, 4 billion a month. It's a huge amount of money. Even, but obviously it disperses across many economies if done properly. Can the developed nations afford it?
They can, and they should. I think we are all in this together, and there are spillovers across countries. If Ukraine faces runaway inflation because they have to print money, that's going to affect other countries. It is in our collective interest to help Ukraine through this difficult period so that it can reach this stage of a stable peace and reconstruction.
Now, today we had inflation numbers from the US. You'll have seen them this morning. Better, I mean, it's moving in the right direction, but it's not moving there fast enough. We know from the ECB similar sort of prognosis, and many economies are still going to be hit. On this question of inflation, accepting the view that it has to be brought down, where do you stand on whether it's 2 or 3%? Do you get terribly excised if we don't push inflation all the way back down to target?
I don't get terribly excited about 2 versus 3%. However, in emerging Europe, we are talking about inflation that's close to about 20%. So in the context of emerging Europe, I think the central banks need to stay the course. And even if they do that, inflation is going to be around 10% at the end of this year. So we are talking here about high numbers, not 2 versus 3%.
Right. Well, I have my traffic lights here in the studio, and I'll show them to you in a moment. A red, as you'll be familiar, a red is things are getting better. An amber, red, things are getting worse, or, a harder fall. An amber, things are getting pretty much mishmash. And a green, no, things are absolutely getting better. So which would you choose?
Yellow. For emerging Europe, definitely yellow. It is not out of the woods yet. It's going to be a difficult year with much higher prices of natural gas than those in the US, with slowdown in Germany, which will mean lower exports, and with inflation eroding purchasing power of the consumers.
Thank you very much. Very grateful. Kind of you. Indeed. Thank you. Now,